Hey, I want to give you my 2 cents for just a minute on the documents that you get for closing. I've got in my hand right here a full set of documents for an 80-acre tract that an investment group that RecLand is representing is selling. And I always ask for the documents in advance of the final documents being sent out to all the parties for signature so that I can give them a quick review, make sure there's no issues or anything that's unusual in case one of the parties has a question. I have already reviewed them. Well, I didn't get these documents in advance. Today is Saturday. This closing is set for Monday. So I didn't get the documents in advance. So even if I got them executed Monday and FedEx back for Tuesday delivery, that's just last second. But then when I got the documents and I went through them is when I caught some of the issues that I could have caught 4 or 5 days ago had they just sent me the documents in advance like we request. I always do that. In fact, I encourage you, if you're using a real estate agent for any of your deals, get them to get the documents in advance of the final draft. Is how you tell them, hey, I want to review just a draft before the documents are sent out to all the parties or a closing is scheduled, so that you can just make sure everything is good and so there's no surprises. A closing should simply be showing up to do what is already done. That's all a closing ought to be. There shouldn't be any unknown numbers, any unusual circumstances. There shouldn't be anything happen in a closing that you haven't already been aware of. That is how a good closing works. To be honest with you, that's how most of the closings that we're involved with work. Everybody just shows up and signs what they already know. But here's an incident where there's some errors. Hey, and this title company is great. I mean, we've done millions of dollars worth of deals through them. They're good people, do great work. They had a few mess ups in this for whatever reason. The things that I caught just by quickly reviewing it, they didn't have a big item on the settlement statement. There's a survey in this deal, about $4,000. Well, they didn't have that being paid to the surveyor at closing. It should have come out of the seller's side of the deal to pay the surveyor. No big deal. I called them. They got that on there. And then I was able to review the documents further. I saw that they had overcharged the seller, the buyer. This is a deal that's being done so much per acre. Well, the contract says that specifically. It's an 80-acre deal, 80 acres. It's so much per acre, and so that's you multiply that out and it's a flat amount. That's what they have in the contract or in the settlement statement. But the contract specifically says so much money per surveyed acre. Well, I've got the handy dandy survey, and when the survey came back, it's 4/10 of an acre less than 80. It's 79.6 acres. So they didn't adjust the purchase price by that 4/10 of an acre. That's real money. What this guy's paying per acre times 0.4, that's real money. And so I had to, make a note on there. Hey, adjust the purchase price to make it match the surveyed acres. Because, they don't want to cheat the buyer out of the deal. And apparently he's already reviewed this and this is all good, but he's really paying more than he contracted to pay. So we're going to get that right. And another thing they did that I was able to catch just by quickly reviewing the documents is that they had a parcel in here in the deed and in all of the other documents that's not even part of the deal. It doesn't belong to the sellers. It actually belongs to the buyer. Perhaps he was using it as collateral in his loan to buy this, whatever reason. Anyway, it showed up in these documents. It shouldn't be. It's not involved in any shape, matter, or form. The sellers aren't selling it. They're not issuing any title policy on this. And so that was a big deal. So I had to have them correct those 3 major things so that they can, this deal will be right. So they're going to have to resend the documents out. These will be quick changes they can make, but it just costs time. And time is a big deal in real estate closings. It really is. Especially when you get right down to the time of closing, it needs to be right at that point. There are a lot of things that I don't look for when I look at the documents. I don't check every letter. I don't check every single call in the survey. This survey had a lot of calls, and calls are the distance and direction, such and such bearing or azimuth at such and so many feet to a point, and thence direction and distance, thence direction and distance. And there could be sometimes dozens of those in a legal description. Be honest with you, I don't check every number to make sure it's exactly, 1,329.25 feet or whatever it's supposed to be. Because if they have messed that up somehow, if they have transposed some numbers or got the wrong number in there somewhere, those are corrections that the title company can make later. They can make those as notarial acts of correction. They're simply typos, common language. You and I just call them typos, and that's legitimately what they are. They missed a number. They called east west. They called north south. They transpose numbers. That sort of thing. Typos. They can fix them. Most of the times those things are fixed and you and I never even know about it. Notarial acts of correction in the record. But some things are material changes in the documents, and those require the parties to come back together and re-sign other documents, have things notarized again. Sometimes it's years later and they're having to track down people, and those types of changes are a nuisance. They're a pain. I've had to deal with them on both sides as a buyer and as a seller and as a real estate person who's trying to kind of put the pieces together, from years ago on a deal. And you do that, you pull the documents, you get everything to them, and it all gets taken care of. But it's a huge waste of time, and it's just annoying as all get out. A lot of title companies, and even this one, has a document in here that says, you give them the power to make certain corrections. And that catches a lot of stuff. Or it gives them the power to fix things in arrears. But all of that can be avoided. A lot of these issues can be avoided. Take 10 minutes, get the settlement statement, make sure all the big numbers are right. I don't go down there and look and see that they charged me $35 for a wire fee as opposed to the other title company charges $25. I don't nickel and dime every little item on there. I glance at the big numbers, make sure that the seller's paying what he's supposed to pay for, buyer's paying what they're supposed to pay for, how much it costs. I don't get in too much because it's just going to be what it is. And these title companies are fair. But I just make sure everybody's being charged what they're supposed to be charged for based on what the contract said, that all the big numbers are right, and everything else kind of works out. And then I look at the legal description to make sure that it is the track that was represented in the sale, and that the legal description is there, it's correct. And again, I don't tear it apart item by item. I just make sure, that's the legal. And if I miss a typo, I'm not worried about that. That gets taken care of. Nobody knows. Title policy, I always make sure that the legal description on the deed is the same one they put in the title policy, because a lot of times it's copy paste and they've just copied something from or left something in a document that was there before. So these are big items that your real estate person ought to check, that you yourself could easily check, just a few minutes going over it, or somebody that's knowledgeable, just have them review your documents in advance of the closing so that when you get there to sign, you're just signing what you know. It's already a done deal. You're just capping it off with a signature in front of a notary. So anyway, some of you are pros. This is old hat to you. No big, you've heard, oh, Pat, I knew all this stuff. Others of you, I'm telling you, it'll save you a lot of heartache and probably some money if you take 10 minutes in advance, a couple days in advance, get these documents and just give them a quick review. The biggest problem will not be reviewing the documents, I promise you. The biggest problem will be getting a draft of them a couple of days ahead of time. These title companies and closing attorneys, as good as they are, this is still a lot of times last minute all kind of coming together. And that's no blight on them. It's just that this is one deal out of 100 they got going on that week, and then they all just kind of come together right at the end. So sometimes they can't get them to you 4 or 5 days in advance. But just kindly ask them, hey, I need to get a draft of the documents for review before you send out the final draft for the closing. And they'll do that for you. Anyway, hope that's helpful. Hope you're doing good. Go make some deals. Bye.